What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and guys, I hate doing videos like this, but we need to talk about what happened today with the Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, this is beyond. This got ugly today. So if you guys don't know exactly what happened, basically this whole thing against the assistant video coach or the head video coach, whatever, the video coach Brad Aldrich of the Chicago Blackhawks back in their run in the Western Conference Finals against the San Jose Sharks. He had had interactions with a player, and everything has come out today. And it couldn't have really come at a worse time for the Chicago Blackhawks, who already had enough problems on the ice to start this season. Now it's all coming together off the ice, and it's really tainted what that dynasty was for the Blackhawks. And I think it's a shame. I really, again, I obviously, my sympathies to, John Doe and everybody involved in the situation. But this is, in the grander scheme for the Chicago Blackhawks as an organization, this is very, very seismic as to who is going to be affected and, quite honestly, who is going to be responsible and who is going to pay proper consequences for what happened. So I've been very quiet on this matter because in my opinion, I'd like to know before I judge about what somebody did or said, and he said, she said, let's get the facts out and let's figure everything out before we come to conclusions. And to be, completely honest, I think a lot of you would agree with me. If you follow this channel, you probably to some extent agree with me. That, sometimes these things are taken out of context, or sometimes they are just throwing into the flame while it's already going. Perfect example, the Evander Kane situation, which some people have their gripes about that. But this is very different because there is concrete proof now that a lot of this did indeed happen. There's enough evidence, enough people said that this stuff did happen, and now we have concrete information to see proper changes and consequences. And, for the Blackhawks right now, this is not an organization that, I guess if you want to look at it in the positive light, there are chances that by this spring or next summer, a lot of these guys in the Blackhawks organization may have been gone anyway because of the lack of success based off of what's happened so far this season. Now, some people would argue this could be the best thing that happens to the Blackhawks, and I'll explain that once we get further in. So, to start off, let's go with what happened. So, everything was concluded today, and basically, the NHL fines the Chicago Blackhawks $2 million over the handling of the Brad Aldrich situation. Bettman to meet with Quenneville and Cheveldayoff at some point this week. So, I want to give proper credit here to Puck Report of the NHL. The NHL fines $2 million for inadequate internal procedures and insufficient and untimely response in the handling of matters related to former video coach Brad Aldrich's employment with the club and ultimate departure in 2010. The league and team have announced that $1 million of the fine will go toward funding local organizations in and around the Chicago community which provide counseling and assistance to victims of blah 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 assault. You could probably fill in the blank with what that is, and other forms of abuse. Gary Bettman also announced he will meet separately with Florida Panthers head coach Joel Quenneville, who was the head coach of the Blackhawks at the time, and Winnipeg Jets general manager Kevin Cheveldayoff, who at the time was the assistant general manager of the Chicago Blackhawks, along with Stan Bowman, regarding their involvement in the situation and reserve judgment on the next steps, if any, with them. Now, we're starting to get more information about what was said during this time. So basically, what has created this tire fire and storm, basically it was announced that when the Blackhawks let go of Brad Aldrich, it was one of those things where he was not allowed to have any interactions with the team. He wasn't allowed to be near the players, employees, any personnel of the Chicago Blackhawks once he resigned. And he was given his money, your kind of paycheck and get the heck out of here situation. Well, there's only one problem. He was at the Stanley Cup, the celebration parade in 2010. That's a no-no. And there was also, he had a day with the Stanley Cup where he also had interactions with an employee of the Blackhawks, and he was touching that said employee. So this is one of those things where it did get kind of ugly. Now, to make things even worse, right, apparently, again, I don't want to speak for Joel Quenneville, but apparently Joel Quenneville knew about the situation. And basically he said, well, this is, let me see if I could get the exact quote here. And this is from Sports Illustrated. They have an article up if you want to look at the article. So an official statement from July of 2021, Kevin Cheveldayoff, the Jets general manager now, said, I had no knowledge of any allegations involving Mr. Aldrich until asked if I was aware of anything just prior to the conclusion of his employment with the Blackhawks. He too was at the meeting, and that was a lie. According to the report, when Quenneville was made aware of the allegations against Aldrich, his response was that the team had worked hard to get this far in the postseason and that they, quote-unquote, could not handle this right now. So that, if that is true, is really not good for the now Florida Panthers head coach, Joel Quenneville. So, looking at the guys that have been let go, I've given you all that information. So, there's some murky water here with the Jets general manager, Cheveldayoff, and also Florida Panthers head coach, Joel Quenneville, who were part of that 2010 Blackhawks organization. So now, this information came out around noon today, and the Blackhawks general manager, Stan Bowman, is no longer with the organization. There was also some more to this. So, Senior VP of Hockey Operations Al McIsaac and General Manager Stan Bowman have left the Blackhawks following the findings of the team's internal investigation into the 2010 assault incident with then video coach Brad Aldrich. All other executives involved have since left the club. Joel Quenneville, who is now with the Panthers, Kevin Cheveldayoff, who was the assistant general manager at the time with the Blackhawks, now the general manager of the Winnipeg Jets, both previously denied having knowledge of the allegations when initially asked by the media back in July of 2021, which now with some of this information, it does sound like there is some involvement there. So, to catch you up, it seems like CEO John McDonough is still part of the organization. Jeremy Colleton, the head coach, had no affiliation at the time. He is still with the Chicago Blackhawks. Again, some people may think, well, he may not be here that long anyway. And then you start to wonder, with all this ripple effect, there are still players on the Chicago Blackhawks today that were in that 2010 time frame, right? Some of those players are pretty seismic players in the Chicago Blackhawks organization. Duncan Keith is now gone. Brent Seabrook is gone. But Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane are still part of the organization. Now, we don't necessarily have information on how much they knew of the situation at the time. So it's again, this is one of those things, we don't have enough information on those players in particular, but that is something to consider, which led Larry Brooks. Brooks wonders when the trade talk involving Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews will start. So now you're seeing this whole thing now have an effect on the Blackhawks, and there's two ways you could look at this. The Blackhawks have had a terrible start to the season. You may look at this as, well, the Blackhawks just aren't that good of a team, or is everything off the ice with this Aldrich situation? Has that been a distraction for the team to start the season? And I absolutely think it is. Now, it's not necessarily an excuse for the Chicago Blackhawks with where they're at, but you look at their 0-5-1 record to start the season. They are, right now, if you look at the NHL standings, they are second last in the NHL. They are tied with the Arizona Coyotes who blew up their entire organization. They are tied with the Arizona Coyotes through 6 games. They have 1 point, an overtime loss. That's it for the Chicago Blackhawks this season. So, Bowman and Al MacInnis are gone. So your president of hockey operations and general manager, Stan Bowman, gone, as well as Al MacInnis. They are both gone, the president. So the Chicago Blackhawks right now, they are in a very precarious situation. This has already been in a fan base that it's been a couple years since this team's been in the playoffs. Now they are having an absolute PR nightmare. And their team is not doing well on the ice. Winning takes care of a lot of things. I'm not necessarily saying this would be that case, but when you start the season 0-6-1, that probably has something to say about it, right? So, Stan Bowman gone, Al MacInnis gone, and I wonder what this is going to have an effect as we hear more information about Joel Quenneville in Florida and Kevin Cheveldayoff in Winnipeg. 2 organizations right now, specifically the Florida Panthers, they're at the top of the NHL standings right now. So now it becomes is it more, do you go the moral route? We're going to do the right thing? Or are the Florida Panthers, who have been starving for success in Florida, that fan base who has lost money for so long, Vinny Viola, all the investment he has put into that team, he's now got the head coach. Could they have to make a really, some people would hate me saying this, a really tough decision, because some people would say, well, you obviously make it's an easy decision. You let him go because he did something wrong. So, but when you realize how much is involved in this, it is not that easy. It's easy for us from the sidelines to say, yeah, get rid of him, because morally that's the wrong thing. That's the wrong thing to do. If they know there's involvement there from Quenneville, he has to pay the consequence. But there's winning and there's money. There is a lot on the line for the ownership for the Florida Panthers right now, and even management, because they could lose their job if they don't get the right guy in his place. This could become very ugly. Same thing for the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets are looking pretty good right now. I mean, obviously, points-wise, they're 2-1, but they look decent, right? So they're going to have a tough time. If they get rid of Cheveldayoff, that could be very interesting as well. So the Windy City is way more windy than usual, and you also have potential ramifications around the league that don't include the Chicago Blackhawks. So we're going to wrap this up with a nice little bow. This, I believe, is the best thing for the Chicago Blackhawks organization. And here's why I say that. You look at what Stan Bowman has actually done in Chicago. When he came in, a lot of people would make the argument that the general manager before him, I don't remember if it was it Dale Talon for the Blackhawks? Don't quote me on that, but there is rumors that I'm pretty sure. Who was the head coach before Stan Bowman? Let me know down below, because people will probably want to know as well. Who was the head coach before, the general manager before Stan Bowman? Because a lot of people said he built that team, and Stan Bowman kind of came in and finished it off and gave the last pieces to build that dynasty team. And the Wirtz family, we know that they have built this, this team, and they had the success many years ago. Then they had the potential leaving Blackhawks, leaving Chicago situation, and then obviously they have this unheralded success, drafting Kane, drafting Tage, drafting Seabrook, Keith, all those guys that built that team. And now you're starting to see it just completely unravel right in front of our eyes. Corey Crawford left. Keith left this summer. Seabrook left. Again, it was on LTIR. And now the only 2 guys left are Kane and Taze, and they may have to be on their way out as a way to kind of deviate from this enigma of what has become with the Chicago Blackhawks organization. And again, it's one of those things where not everybody involved was a part of this. And you have to remember that some people knew more than other people. So it's one of those things where you can't take away the championships. I don't think that's fair. But people are definitely going to look at that situation with this team very differently. Perfect example, and this is me kind of going to a personal experience. I watched Penn State football, and their head coach, Joe Paterno, apparently had some situations with his assistant coach where he had allegations, and they turned out to be true. And Joe Paterno was the face of Penn State, had his own statue in front of the football stadium and all this, and he was the face and the focal point of that school. And this stuff came out, and there was some questions about how much he knew and this and that, and it ruined his reputation. They took away his championships. They took away his success when he passed away. And I hate to say it, but that is the world we live in. And again, this is maybe the beginning of cancel culture when that started. But it was kind of, we might see something similar to that here. And it's really a shame, but I understand why it's there. I absolutely get why people want that taken out. But it is just, you look at that time. I remember being a young kid. I was 10, 15 years old. Around that time, watching hockey, and the Blackhawks were the best team in hockey. And now I just look back and I'm like, it doesn't even, seem, it wasn't what it seemed. And it kind of takes away from what I remember of that championship dynasty run that the Blackhawks went on. And this is always going to be attached to that, which is a shame. So obviously, to the victims, I have to preface that obviously there is a lot of sympathy toward that. But for the Blackhawks moving forward, I think this is the best thing for them. I really don't think most of this staff would have made it to next summer anyway. And I think the little success we've seen so far from this team, there's going to be massive changes in Chicago. Do we potentially see a trade of Patrick Kane to Buffalo? Does he return back home? I mean, the Buffalo Sabres don't look now, but Jack Eichel trade, listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Jack Eichel for Patrick Kane. Could that be a potential thing? I know Blackhawks fans don't want to hear that, but there is something that maybe could be said for that, right? So, as crazy as that sounds, it may be on the table. Other than that, I really like what we could see for the future of the Blackhawks, because I think moving forward, this allows them to break the gates. There's this distraction won't go away, but it will give them a new opportunity to start new. And I think they almost needed a reason to do that, obviously in a terrible circumstance, but they almost needed that because for so long now, guys, when's the last time the Blackhawks won a cup? I think it was 2015, right? It's been 6 years since the Chicago Blackhawks won a Stanley Cup. Let me just check that. They had that Nashville Predator series where they got swept in the first round, and they haven't been back to the playoffs since then. So this is kind of to the point where, they were almost a victim of their success for a while. They were giving up draft picks. They were trading early draft picks. They were, just in, kind of in that high of championships. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, this team looks totally different. And their last conference championship was 2014-2015. And Stanley Cups. When's their last Stanley Cup? Of course, they're not going to show me that. 2010, 2013, it was 2015. It's been 6 years. It'll be 7 years in the springtime since the Chicago Blackhawks last won the Stanley Cup. Now, again, 7 years is nothing when you ask Maple Leaf fans or other fan bases around the league, but it's been some time now, and they haven't won a playoff series since then. That's 7 years of not winning a playoff series, let alone a Stanley Cup. And I think this is what's best for the Chicago Blackhawks organization. You look at, this is an Original Six franchise. This is a proud Original Six franchise with tons of history. Hall of Famers all over the United Center. You look up in the rafters at all those Hall of Famers. This is an organization that has a lot of pride in history. And I think we're going to see some serious change there. The Wirtz Corporation has a lot of work ahead of them, because I think we are going down the path of the continuation of this rebuild. Now, the good thing is Stan Bowman and the staff has created the framework of a rebuild. But this, right now, it's almost looked like patchwork just so Stan Bowman could keep his job. And I'm not saying Seth Jones was a bad signing, but I saw this in the last year of Garth Snow with the Islanders. He made those really stupid moves, bringing in Andrew Ladd, signing him to that buku money contract, and he knew he wasn't going to be with the Islanders for that deal. But it was protect his own ass for that season. And I think we started to see Stan Bowman kind of fall into that. More, I want to protect my job than what's best for the long-term future of the franchise. We started to see that take form, and I think it was unhealthy for the Blackhawks. And I really wonder how this is going to affect the next jersey retirements for the Blackhawks. I mean, will Seabrook, Keith, Taze, Kane, will some of those guys maybe not get their jerseys retired because of this situation? Stan Bowman, will he lose his authority as, a face of this team, and we'll never see Stan Bowman references in the United Center at, memorials and looking back at that Cup era, because it's all been taken away because of what happened here. Real quick, there is an interim general manager. Kyle Davidson is the interim general manager to take over Stan Bowman. Obviously not Stan Bowman, so there is going to be some question there. Jeremy Colleton keeps his job. He will stay there. But this is an organization, guys, where we are going to see a lot of change. And honestly, from the outside looking in, I think it's time for the Blackhawks to do this. And it's going to be rough. It's going to be a painful season. I think there's going to be a lot of questions. I think there's going to be a lot of reconfiguring the organization. And it makes me wonder if Seth Jones, did he make the right choice? Because right now, he wanted to go to a team that could go to the playoffs this year, right? He liked the Kane and DeBrincat connection. Well, what if Kane gets traded to Buffalo this summer? That changes everything for Seth Jones, Caleb Jones, and the guys that have invested there. So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I know my Blackhawks fans are going to watch this video. I know my non-Blackhawks fans are going to watch this video. I want biased and unbiased opinions on this situation, because I know there's going to be people that say, oh, here comes cancel culture. They ruined the Blackhawks, this and that. But I think it was probably a blessing in disguise for the Blackhawks in terms of them needing a change. And like I keep saying, I don't think I'm saying it the right way, because I don't like saying a blessing for obviously what happened with this whole Brad Aldrich situation with the victims. I don't mean it like that. It's more of, this is an organization that needed a reset. It just happened to be a circumstance that was really ugly and really dirty, and it almost needed to be that in order for the Blackhawks to make the changes they needed. And to be honest, it almost seems a little bit, it makes more sense, and maybe Blackhawks fans, it lessens the pain because the team has been so bad to start the season. It just maybe makes it hurt a little bit less. So to recap, what's his name? McIsaac, who was the president, and the president of hockey ops and general manager Stan Bowman have been let go. Kyle Davidson taking the general manager position for the remainder of the season, and time will tell on what the long-term status is for the general manager vacancy in Chicago. So guys, let me know what you think down below, and if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. And let's go Blackhawks, because they are going to have a rough season this year. Guys, if you need some moral support, I will be here to help you. Have a good night, guys.